Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So, Tokenization 3.0, the evolution of tokenized payment network. So, what is Tokenization 3.0? If you're familiar with the card payment business, you're probably aware of a tokenization was introduced by card schemes like, say, Visa and MasterCard many years back. A tokenization, in fact, improved the security of card payments and also later inspire or supports more innovative payment processings, such as every day you're using Google Pay and Apple Pay as well. Okay. But tokenization 3.0, in fact, will push the token utilization in payment processing to next height. So before I start all the stories about this whole evolutions, I want to share the full stack payment networks for platform. This is what we have built, right, for whole payment processing. So if you're coming from Web3 industries, you probably very well know about all those elements down there, including the wallet plugins, the wallet service, white label wallets, cross-chain bridge, and also on-chain liquidation management. If you're coming from Web2 environments, you probably feel like all those elements in a part of stacks will make more sense to you. But the cross-border remittance is to help remittance companies to reduce the cost with a token in providing cross-border remittance service. The token issuance service, in fact, is to help the traditional companies such as banks, fintech companies, as well as capital market service providers to mint tokens, to issue tokens on the blockchains. But their operation teams have no idea about the Web3 operations, has no clue how to do it. And then the merchant acquiring solution is more easy to understand. This is to enable merchant to accept token as a payment method. Last but not least, we also have a system to facilitate OTC operation as well. Okay, so in the middle, we have our blockchain cost and also cost chain services integrated for all the players, including our refined algorithm, GISCA, and also AML and KYC. And last but not least, our zero knowledge proof algorithm we have implemented later last year. It's actually very interesting. This new method, this new smart contract will help to inspire more innovative payment processing. Okay, I believe you have already heard all those concepts, all those elements in many other places, many other events. But have you ever think about this? Why blockchain becomes used in payments? Why blockchain we feel like it's born for payments? The whole story we started with the payments we're having in the markets. And we'll be thinking about this not from this year, where it's more popular for the PayFis. We're thinking about this 5 years before. Okay, so these are all the payments we have in the market so far. We're very familiar with all those, and we're using this for every day. So you see on the left, there are cash that we've been using for 100 years. We've been dealing with cash. We are doing payments and face-to-face. We'll hand over the cash bills, right? In the middle is the charge cards that were introduced more than 17 years ago. So people no longer need to make payments with a stack of the cash. You can simply make payments with cards. So the card business evolved further than now we have Visa and MasterCard. Those are more open card schemes. So we have more products like credit cards and debit cards and pre-credit cards to make payments. So 20 years ago, we have now the e-wallets will come to the world, right? So I believe every one of us have more than one e-wallet in your mobile now. We enjoy more innovative payment processing and more convenience with the wallets as well. The crypto payments would actually come to work only 15 years ago. Well, you probably heard about these stories. So a gentleman bought 2 pizzas from Papa John's with 10K BTC. I hope I was the shop owner, so those 10K BTC will make me billionaire by end of last year, but not today. Okay. Those are things we are very familiar with on day-to-day basis, but what usually we don't know, or what most of us we don't know, is the settlement and clearing process behind all those payment process. Right? So if we're talking about cards, we know no matter what schemes we're talking about, a big closed loop, a more open loop, the card schemes in fact centralize the settlement entity who will help to do settlements with all players. They will do settlements with the acquirer, they will do settlements with the issuer. Whereas settlements for the merchant will take care of by the acquirer, and the issuers will manage the cardholders' repayments. Right? For wallets, you feel like this is slightly easier. You don't see all those players in the ecosystems. So everyone in these wallets environments, you just need to have your wallet accounts, right? So payments just basically move your balance across your wallet accounts. And the settlements only happens when you have money movement with the banks. Okay? In terms of wallets, there's no dominant network to do a settlement across globally. But Alipay start to implement a network called Alipay Plus, which is already connected with few wallets in Southeast Asia. But this is again is a centralized entity to do all the settlements. So come to the cryptos, right? So cryptos, now we have wallets by centralized exchange as a custodian wallets. We can also move funds across through a non-custodian wallets. But what is the settlement required for crypto side? Do we need another centralized entity to do our settlements for crypto? Yeah, it may work, but we feel like it's not necessary to do that. Reason why we not necessary to have a centralized entity to do a settlement. You can see in Web 2, all in all, whenever I talk about this settlement process, we always need an entity called centralized entity to do it. Reason being, all the transactions will be held in a centralized book. So without this centralized entity, you won't be able to do any clearance. And also the second reason is the money, the value was held in the bank accounts. So you need a centralized entity to do a clearance and also work with the banks to do a settlement. And this settlement process usually happens at night. So it is not so efficient. But if you look at the Web3, what will happen when the Web3 payments was done, when the customer pay the merchants, the token will move from the customer's wallets to the merchant's wallets. So when payment was completed, in fact, the value will be landed in the merchant's wallets already. So the payments and settlements will happen at the same time. So you don't need to have another troublesome process to do a settlement and a clearing for blockchain transactions. But does that mean anyone in the world can pick up any chain and say, oh, I can provide a settlement process because I'm using blockchain technologies? Okay. The vision of platform is to replace the centralized settlement systems introduced by Visa and MasterCard with a settlement system empowered by blockchain technology so we can provide a more smooth, a more cost-efficient settlement process with all the parties. In fact, it's beyond merchant and the retail customer. And what we believe, it is not so easy to do a settlement process and do settlement systems with any other chains. Here's the reason why. Okay, so for the business application to pick up the downstream, the technical foundation, is not so easy. There are so many different business scenarios to consider business application to be implemented. But in order to have a very easy integration method, in order to have a low-cost integration method, you need to have all those elements processed in between. So to make sure the process for the business to integrate is so easy and then the cost is so low. So from architecture perspective, we start with analyze of all those payment scenarios. We understand those scenarios. We come up with this middle layer where we know the payment method is required to materialize those scenarios. Then only when we will come to the technical part. So we come up with all those components, either from signature, HE, and the zero-knowledge proof authentication. With all those components, we will enable the methods, and in the end, we will support all those scenarios. Okay, so it looks like from processing perspective, it's all there, right? You can support all those processing scenarios. But that is not enough from architecture perspective. Why? Because today, the payment business is a very highly regulated business. So for all the players in the payment environments, you all need to fulfill a certain regulatory requirements. You all have your responsibility to fulfill your compliance processing. So let's say in today's markets, right, you have issuers. So to be an issuer, you need to be licensed in Hong Kong, the SVF rules. You also need to be licensed under the PSA in Singapore, the Payment Service Act. You either be an e-money, you either be an e-account issuer, you either be a DPT issuer under PSA. If you are a merchant acquirer, you're driving a payment protocol, you also need to be licensed under Singapore. It's a merchant acquiring license. Unfortunately, in Hong Kong, I'm not aware if a certain license is required for a merchant acquirer. Again, the last, if you are asset manager, if you want to provide a certain trading and a swap protocol, you also need to be licensed under Singapore is CMS license, and for Hong Kong, a Type 9 license. So all those regulatory framework will require the player in the payments to fulfill their requirements, to fulfill their process under the compliance regimes. So when we build our smart contract, we are bearing in mind to make sure our protocols will be able to enable our partners in the payment side to fulfill their compliance regulatory requirements. So only then we come to the bottom, right? Then we know what kind of the network we need to build, what kind of blockchain we need to build. So we know we need to support the financial transaction. We need to make sure it's thorough enough, it will be good enough to support transactions. So first, we refine the BFT consensus. We come up with our own consensus called GISCA. You saw in my earlier charts. The GISCA consensus will in fact going through a strict formal verification by professional institutions, rather than rely on, let's say, testing, right? You go through thousands testing, you see, oh, it works. A financial world cannot rely on your few thousand or even millions testings. So we have been learning for 4 years already, right? Over the 4 years' time, we have already produced more than 1 million and 100 million and 15 million blocks. We also support transactions more than 55 millions. Right? Today's our high performance is over 10 kTPS. But for implementation side, it's more easy. Whoever understands the EMV, who can make the transactions on our chains, who can also deploy the smart contract on our chain as well. Is that good enough? It sounds like good enough, but over the years, when we discuss with a lot of customers, especially when we talk to the enterprise customers, we realize a public chain, a permissionless chain cannot fulfill their needs. So we understand from those enterprise clients, they need to have a control over their own data. They need to have a control over their own ecosystem. So they cannot simply say, oh, I will just jump on your permissionless public chain, I can enjoy everything there. So that's why we built our framework to support the app chain building. So within the app chain, the enterprise can choose not to use a permissionless protocol. They can also say, okay, there's permission required. I will control who have access to my chain, who have access to the data, right? So they can also enjoy our GISCA algorithm, but they will have their own chain, have their own control on the data. So that's the whole architecture you require to do a payment system, a payment settlement system. So how to join our ecosystem? It's quite simple and easy. So for issuer acquirer, I already mentioned we do have a lot of solutions for them to just easily pick up. And for developers, it's EVM compatible. They can easily deploy their contract. For wallet providers, we also have a lot of components and frameworks they can follow. So they don't need to build everything from scratch. So today, the Platinum chain has already been recognized by our partners in Southeast Asian countries. And this year, we are further broadening our business into the Middle East, into Africa, and into South America. And the next year, we foresee the MiCA will be fully implemented in Europe, and then also the Trump administration will give more clarity. So what other crypto will be regulated in US? Then we probably will also explore our business in Europe and in America. Okay, that's all my sharing. Thanks for your time.